You started warning about mass migration over 2 decades ago.
I did.
Over 2 decades ago.
I did. The Islamic ideology is facing a real threat to our freedom, to our Western societies, to the values that are based in our societies on Christianity, on Judaism, on humanism.
What did you see 2 decades ago?
250,000 British girls were raped by Muslim men, Pakistani. It's treason that politicians who saw it, who knew it, didn't act.
I didn't want to be angry because it fixes nothing.
You should be angry. I mean, more people should get angry because sometimes anger is instrumental to a solution. My party, we are now in opposition, but a few years ago we won the national elections. Restore Britain is getting stronger and stronger. The AFD in Germany, the FPÖ in Austria, look at Rassemblement National in France. It is possible that there will be a change if people stand up and know. And that's why it's important that we tell them all the facts that were ignored to them for too long.
And my message to all the old leaders, from Macron to Scholz, to your old Pedro Sanchez, is your time is over now.
One of the most incredible scenes took place in the European Parliament as the return directive was voted on. Send them back, send them back. One of the most popular words of the year last year, according to the Financial Times, that word is remigration.
Yes.
Mr. Wilders, you're smiling.
If you commit a crime, we send you packing, maybe even with your family. Let me tell you, if you do that and we send 4 planes away, it will change. Because a threat is useless if you don't act on it. And I believe that if we do it, and if we send 4 planes with all families of criminals back to any country, that people will say, hey, shit, what is happening here? They are actually doing it. It will change their behavior. And if not, we use another plane.
Today, I'm in the Netherlands, in The Hague, with one of the Netherlands' most controversial politicians, Mr. Wilders. Stefan Tompson, lovely to see you.
Nice to see you, it's an honor.
One of the things that you said recently was that you would not wish the security detail that you've been appointed and the security measures that you have, 6 armed policemen, an armoured police vehicle taking you from your safe house to the Parliament, the most secluded office in the Parliament, and allegedly a bulletproof vest at all times. You said you wouldn't wish those security measures on your worst enemies.
No, I mean, speaking the truth, what I do about issues that are not very popular to talk about, like the Islamization of our Western societies, comes with a price, you know. You get death threats, you get fatwas. I got many fatwas from Pakistani imams. You are taken to court. That happened to me in the Netherlands, but also Jordan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, other countries threatened to take me to court. So it comes with a high price. And also for myself personally and my family, I mean, we have been living for almost 25 years in safe houses, in army barracks, even in prison cells, you know, where the Lockerbie suspects were in jail, in the same jail we were voluntarily, well, not voluntarily, but without being sentenced as a criminal. We had to stay there for a while to be safe when we just started to get those kind of threats. So it comes with a price, and things like that nobody deserves it, you know, in a democracy. Even my worst political enemies, I don't want them and their families to experience this because it's a very high price. And nobody from any part of the political spectrum, friend or foe, deserves to have such a life.
You've been at the forefront of Dutch politics for the last 2 decades. I mean, you've been Politician of the Year repeatedly, been Person of the Year repeatedly. What's the message that you bring, if you had to explain to a foreign audience that don't know the Netherlands well? What is it, if you had to distill your ideas and the core of your fight, what is it?
Well, the cause freedom. You know, the name of my party is the Party for Freedom, which I established more than 20 years ago, a rather young party in the Dutch politics. And we fight for freedom on any level. We fight for freedom for the people. You know, we have to be an autonomous country. We are fighting for their national sovereignty instead of internationalization. The people have to have freedom of speech. We don't have to import ideologies that have really nothing to do with freedom, like I believe Islam is, you know. Islam, as an example, you are not free to leave it, you know. If you're an apostate, a renegade, the penalty is that you have to be killed, according to the ideology. So freedom on all levels is what I'm aiming for, and I'm a kind of, you know, cultural conservative. I believe that our values based on Christianity and Judaism are the most superior values that we have for centuries, and that we should adhere to them, that we should not give in to the multiculturalists, or even worse, the cultural relativists, you know, the people who believe that all cultures are equal. A democracy needs its dominant culture, it needs a national flag, it needs a national sovereignty, it needs its own borders, it needs anything that has to do with sovereignty. And we lost it in the process in the last decades. We let everybody come into our societies, respective whether people integrate or not. And today you see the mess we are in, and we are fighting to get the people free again.
Mr. Wilders, when I try to explain mass migration to people who haven't explained it, I'm half Polish, I live in Poland. When I try to explain to Poles the things that I've seen in places like Molenbeek-Saint-Jean, which is a district of Brussels, of certain neighborhoods of Malmö, of certain neighborhoods of Stockholm, Rinkeby notoriously, or of Luton Town, Bury Park, of course, Tower Hamlets in the very heart of London, they don't really believe me. Tell me about the scale of the change. You started warning about mass migration over 2 decades ago.
I did.
Over 2 decades ago.
I did.
What was it 2 decades ago what did you see 2 decades ago?
Well, for instance, myself, I was at that time, at the beginning, before I became an MP, I was a city councillor in the 3rd biggest city of the Netherlands, Utrecht. And I lived in a not too well district, you know, I didn't earn too much money, and I had to live there. But it was a Dutch district. And I lived there for something like 8 years, and in the last year, I believe in my apartment building, which had something like 78 apartments, I was the only one which was not from non-Western origin. And it became worse after the last 2 decades, you know. In Holland today, if you look at our 3 biggest cities, Amsterdam, Rotterdam and The Hague, the majority are from the non-indigenous background, you know. People feel strangers and foreigners in their own street, in their own neighborhood, sometimes in their own city. And that's really very bad, you know. If you go to parts of Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague, as in Brussels or London or wherever in Europe, except for Eastern Europe perhaps, you feel like in Rabat or Mecca. It's not Dutch, it's not European anymore. The majority is non-indigenous. And if you look at, for instance, the Islamization today, you see that in 20 years, according to a latest survey, in 20 years, the majority of the Dutch people who believe will be Islamic if we don't change anything. You know, the majority, the Islam will be the biggest majority in 20 years' time, as it is already today in Holland for people under the age of 25. Even today, Islam is the biggest religion. Of course, the biggest group are the non-believers, but if you look at the different religions, Islam is today number 1 for the people under the age of 25 and will be for the whole of the people in 2045. And that is incredible. You know, we are not only, and if those people who adhere to it would integrate, but even that is not a part. If you look at the crime statistics in Holland, you see, and the last time they really made a survey about it was a few years ago, but you see that half of, for instance, all the sexual crimes in Holland are again perpetrated by immigrants, people with immigrant background. And that is something you see all over Europe. So the culture, the security, the beliefs, everything is changing. But walk around the street, you will find yourself in a different country, not in the whole of Holland, of course, but in a majority, in more parts than every year before. And people are concerned about it. And we have now today in the Netherlands, as in the whole of Europe, we have an enormous discussion about what should we do with the enormous influx of asylum seekers in Holland. You know, we are a relatively small country in Holland. We have 1,000 a week that are coming to Holland, which are in fact not at all asylum seekers, because they traveled through 5 or 6 safe countries before they entered Holland, you know. They came from Turkey or Spain, and they traveled to France or to Romania, Bulgaria, Austria, Germany, and came to Holland. Not because they should have asked for asylum seeker in one of those safe countries. But they come here and they get everything for free. The government allows them in. We give them free food, free housing, free social security, or anything that they really would like to have. And it's something that is national suicide in Holland today. And people, I spoke yesterday at a rally, as I do almost every week, once or twice, and there are hundreds, thousands of people who are not xenophobes, but who feel and sense that they are losing their country, they are losing their identity, that the government is spending billions of euros a year only to asylum seekers, where at the same time they cut the expenses on their social security or on their public health, or they try to cut the pensions of the elderly. And people are rightfully angered by that. You know, we are committing national suicide, and I believe we are doing that in the whole of Europe, and the people, that might be the good news, are not accepting it anymore.
There is a meme online of this sort of uncaring boomer, the embodiment of après moi le déluge, after me the flood, of these people burning all of their inheritance, using it up, enjoying life. I was sitting on an airplane recently next to a German lady who was in her mid-60s. She was a little bit older than you. She'd just retired. She was telling me about the fact that she had three pensions, one from the state, one from her company, and her own personal savings. And I started asking her questions about migration, about how Germany is changing. She said, well, you know, we have a few problems with immigrants. And I said, are you not concerned for the future generation? Are you not worried about what young Germans are going to go through? And she looked at me dead serious. It was the first time I saw the meme come to life. And she looks at me and she says, I don't have any children, I don't care.
Yeah.
Mr. Wilders, you are 3 decades older than me. I'm born in 1993, you're born in 63, I believe.
Yeah, that's true.
Why do you care? Why you are, that generation is, from my perspective of a young man, I have a sense of having been abandoned by the political elites and the powers that be, that they did not fight for us, that they did not care about my future and the future of my children. Why do you care?
Well, first, you're right that those politicians betrayed you. They did nothing. They only made it worse. They opened the borders, let anybody in from any other culture, and they didn't demand them to integrate. And if they committed a crime, they didn't ask them to leave, you know, as any person. If you have a guest in your own home and the guest misbehaves, you ask them to leave. We didn't. In whole Europe, we did not do that. So indeed, we betrayed, not we, but the politicians that ruled our nations in the last decades betrayed it. So why did I do it? First, because I know how it feels if you lose freedom. And I don't want others to lose their freedom as well. That's why I started my party, as I told you before, the Party for Freedom, because I lost my personal freedom for exact the same reasons that are threatening the rest of the people today. Because people without any concept of freedom, but with totalitarianism, that don't want to integrate, want to take over and rule our nations. And that the ruling elite is not doing anything about it. Look at the report that Rupert Lowe presented yesterday in the United Kingdom. How is it possible that in a European nation, 250,000 girls that were raped by Pakistani Muslim men, as he said in the report. I didn't check it, but it was his independent report. How is it possible that such a thing happened, you know? He spoke about it, Tommy Robinson spoke about it in the past. It was ignored, they were seen as racist or like xenophobes. And 250,000 girls, British girls, were raped by Muslim men, Pakistani. I mean, it's treason. It's treason that politicians who saw it, who knew it, didn't act. And well, I believe that we should stand up. People, the roots should be politicians, even if you have to pay a price if you talk about it, because it's not popular. The ruling elite does not like you. You can be taken to court, you can get death threats, you can be out of the political spectrum. But you have to do it for the future of the freedom of our nation. Of indeed your children, I don't have any children, but children, people that are young today, if we want them to live a free and prosperous life, as our parents did, then we have to act. We cannot ignore the truth. We have to act and make a policy how to reverse it and how to make our nations better, safer places for the future. And that is my incentive every day again. If I go with all those police cars from my safe house to the Dutch parliament or wherever I go, I'm doing it for the future of my nation. And we should be safe and free nations that are proud of who we are and where people don't have to be afraid of what they are doing.
As you brought up the the grooming gang inquiry, it's hard to not get emotional when I think about the scale of abuse and exploitation of those girls. Some of the stories are so horrific. One of them that I often go back to and that I often tell is a story from 2006 of a girl called by the press. She was called Lucy in the press. She was 12. She went to the police station at night to report that she had been raped, and she had her rapist's semen on her underwear. And the police told her she was drunk and to come back home later, to come back to the police station later. In the station, there were two Pakistani men who picked her up, raped her again outside of the police station, and gave her bus money to go home. She walked towards the bus station, gets a car with a Pakistani man, stops. He says he'll give her a lift. He takes her to his home, calls his cousins, gang rapes her again, and then it happens a third time. What is the statistical probability of meeting 3 groups of men in a row in any European country, of meeting 3 groups of indigenous men and getting gang raped on 3 separate occasions on the same night?
It's incredible.
The level of, on one hand, sort of as you brought it up, I wasn't going to ask you about it, but of pain for these poor girls, and then as I think about it, actually it almost makes me angry. I don't want to be angry because it fixes nothing.
You should be angry. I mean, more people should get angry, because sometimes anger is instrumental to a solution. And if we look the other way, as the people did for decades, nothing happened, nothing changed. And now at least it's getting on the surface. There will be a discussion. It was discussed in Parliament by Rupert Lowe. He even spoke about all the experiences of the victim girls in the Parliament. You know, and it's not only in the UK. As I said, maybe not as bad as in the United Kingdom, but even in Holland, half of the sexual crimes are committed by people from a migrant background. Go to Sweden, go to Germany, go to France. You will see, except for, once again, Eastern Europe, that it's almost everywhere the same. And an important remark, whether we like it or not, that Lowe made in Parliament, but I also make for 25 years. One of the reasons I get into trouble, that those are not Swedish people or Canadians or Americans who are the perpetrators. They are Pakistanis. 85 to 90% is written in the report, are Muslim men who have no respect at all for women, for girls, for our values. And rape, as you said, maybe 3 times in a day the same person, without any shame. They feel that Western girls are less worth than Muslim girls, that they dress to, you know what I mean? So we have to be honest, even if it's uncomfortable for many people, to say that there is a link between the import of Islam and those things happening to those girls or any other woman in Europe. And as long as we are afraid to say so, and as long as we are afraid to say that the import of Islam to Europe is not only changing our societies for the worse, but it's also importing a kind of religion with medieval values, then nothing will change. So it's good that report is there, but we have to look at the core reason why it's happening and what to do about it. And I tell you, as long as we don't see Islam for what it really is, and once again, please let me tell you that I'm not talking about all Muslims. I mean, the majority of the Muslims are not criminal or bad people, but Islam as an ideology is threatening the freedom not only of those girls, but to our whole society. If you look at Eastern Europe, where they don't have imported people from Islamic countries, you see a totally different issue. You can walk as a lady freely to the streets of Budapest or Warsaw or whatever, any capital of an Eastern European country. So we have to speak the truth, and as long as we don't do that, nothing will change. Anger is good, but the facts are needed.
One of the most interesting phenomena that we're seeing in European politics today is the rise of something that's described as the Red-Green Alliance. The progressive, neo-Marxist, far-left forces allying themselves with essentially Islamists. You see it in the UK with the Green Party, ironically led by a gay Jewish man who has Islamist friends. We see it in France with Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who's allied himself with people like Bali Bagayoko. We see it in Spain as well. What do you think about this alliance?
Well, unfortunately it's very old, but getting stronger, and indeed interwoven together. What I call the left liberal elite, both from the academia, from the press, but also in politics, and the Islamists, the people adhering to that totalitarian ideology. And they came from one another. What they have in common is that they don't like dominant cultures. They like cultural relativism. What they both also like is that they help one another. You know, in Holland, in the second city of my country, Rotterdam, you cannot win a municipality election without a Muslim vote. So they influence it. And they make parties big that shouldn't be big. Maybe in a democracy it's tough to say, but they are a political force. In any country where they are getting stronger, they are a major political force. So it makes it even harder for the left and liberal political elite to distance themselves from them. They won't, and I believe they never will, but they have no incentive to do so either. So that's another reason why we have to talk about the facts, why what is happening in the UK now with that terrible grooming gang accident for decades long should be discussed. The reason, who are the perpetrators, what are they doing, where are they coming from, what is their ideology, why were they protected by both media, politicians and the political elite. We have to talk about it. People are opening their eyes. Luckily the people in Holland, as in any other nation in Europe, are not stupid. They know what they see. And I'm positive about that, they can make sure that there will be a change. My party, we are now in opposition, but a few years ago we won the national elections. The Restore Britain is getting stronger and stronger. The AfD in Germany is by far the biggest party in the polls now today, like the FPÖ in Austria. Look at Rassemblement National in France. The next president could either be Marine Le Pen or, well, you know, somebody from that party. So it is possible that there will be a change. And we are Democrats. We are non-violent Democrats, so it has to be done on a democratic, political way. And I'm positive about the future. If people stand up and change and know, and that's why it's important that we tell them all the facts that were ignored to them for too long, that if they open their eyes, that as you see today happening, because of the immigration and the asylum-seeking crisis, and they feeling themselves strangers in their own nation, you will see that at the end of the day it's possible that we get in the national parliaments, in the national governments, in the Council of Ministers in the Europe, we get a change of policy, people and politics.
One of the most incredible scenes took place in the European Parliament as the Return Directive was voted in. Members of the European Parliament stood up, conservatives, members of the broad right-wing coalition, and started chanting in the EU plenary, "Send them back, send them back." One of the most popular words of the year last year, according to the Financial Times, is a word that raises great controversy and angst amongst conservative politicians. That word is remigration.
Yes.
Mr. Wilders, you're smiling.
Yeah, no, but we even in Holland for the last decades we had a remigration law. So
what does that mean?
Well, it means that people could voluntarily leave, which many did after their pension, for instance. People who came over in the 60s, 70s, 80s from, for instance, Morocco, they worked and they became 65 and they got to pension. Today it's 67, but still. And they, on the basis of that law, they could get some benefits and leave for their own country.
And it was called the remigration law?
Yes, it was.
Like it was actually called remigration?
Yeah, I think it was called like that. I can check it later, but I think it was. And it was not. Nobody thought what a crazy idea. But what you are meaning, and that's what makes it different today, is the involuntary remigration. And my party, for instance, we are very much in favor of remigration on a voluntary basis, but we also will do it voluntarily, but only with people who commit serious crimes.
Describe to me your policy. What do you mean when you hear the term remigration, when you use the term remigration?
When I use it, it's either voluntarily,
okay,
nothing wrong with people wanting to
incentivizing
go back.
people to go back.
Yeah, with or without incentive. If they want to go back, they can go back. I would not give too much incentive, but if they need something to go back and they want it voluntarily, why not be free to leave if you are not happy here, or if you feel that you should go to your country where you came from. I'm okay with that. But more seriously is that we, as I said before, we never said to people who did not integrate but committed crimes that they are losing their permit to stay. You know, if you are in Holland and you don't cross the red line of our laws and our constitution and our dominant values, and you start acting, for instance, according to Sharia law, and you commit crimes, then I believe we should send people involuntarily back to their country, the country they came from. Often they are born here, for instance, Moroccans. They have a double nationality, sure, both Moroccan and Dutch, so we could strip them of the Dutch nationality and send them back to Morocco if they commit a serious crime. And I'm not talking about shoplifting, but I'm talking about something really serious and get a penalty for a few years imprisonment or something like that. So after that, they should be forced to leave our country on a legal but involuntary way. I think that is something we should have done many years before. I studied that a while, already 10, 15 years ago. And you see, for instance, that either when it's the Gulf states or when it's Morocco itself, they do it themselves. You know, if you are in Morocco and in the Emirates and you are from another Arab nation and you commit a crime, you are sent back out of the country immediately. So I'm only asking that we do as they do. They are more clever than we are in that way. We are very politically correct. Let's do the same and send them back.
Mr. Wilders, my final question. I would love this to continue, but your assistant is adamant that you must be off. How many problems do you think that curtailing mass migration and a series of deportations, how many issues in Western Europe do you think this would solve?
Well, first, we should stop letting people in. This is the most important thing. You can send people back as much as you want, but if you don't close your borders, it is almost useless. So first, my party advocates an asylum stop today in Holland, which I believe is possible. It's very nice that the European Union is adapting some resolutions, but I believe that at the end of the day there are very many borders. The countries like Spain are ruled by socialists. They let anybody in and give them a permit even if they are illegal, and they can travel all over Europe. So I believe we should, as a sovereign country within the European Union, close our own borders, make sure we stop people at the border who are illegal. So let's first reinstate border controls and send people back who have nothing, no permit here, and don't allow them to ask asylum. You can do that if you don't let them enter the border. You know, in a way, Germany did it in the last year. According to Article 72 of a European treaty, they said, well, now we are not letting anybody in. With family reunification, Austria did it in the last year, and it was very successful. So we should do it the same. And if we did that, the problem is on who is already in the Netherlands or in our respective countries. And then it should solve a lot if we say, if you commit a crime, we send you packing, maybe even with your family. Let me tell you, if we do that and we send 4 planes away, it will change. Because a threat is useless if you don't act on it. And I believe that if we do it, and if we send 4 planes with all families of criminals back to any country, that people will say, hey, shit, what is happening here? They are actually doing it. And they know that it will change their behavior. And if not, we use another plane. But that is the only way to deal with it. If you are here, you are welcome to stay. If you participate in our society, adhere to our rules and values, and don't commit crimes, you are equal to anybody else. But if you don't, we send you packing.
Mr. Wilders, thank you so much for your time, and I hope
It's
we'll
my
get
pleasure.
to do a follow-up on this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.